December 3rd. Dee, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Sure.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes on November 19th, please?
Make the motion to approve the minutes of November 19th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Changes? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. New business. At this time, anyone in the audience that has any new business to bring up, now's the time to do so. Mr. Bradstreet, please.
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. In the past, when I've asked for some help from the town, I've always ended my request with, tell me you're working on it. Could I get an update on the mill pond and removing the silt, how that's going? I'd also like the town to deal with the traffic island. I think it's purchased, and Ash Street. It looks terrible. The other thing was I think it's the Human Rights Inclusion. They read a paper at the beginning of their meeting recognizing the American Indians who lived here before we, in a sense, took their land away from them. I think the town deserves or they deserve some recognition, a proper plaque, place someplace where people will see it and can read it. And that, let me know you're working on that one, but I would like an update on the other, if I could.
So the plaque for the Native Americans, I think, is a new request.
Okay.
Okay. And we can ask Human Rights and Inclusion Committee to maybe come back to us with recommendation. And I see somebody in the audience that may be able to help us with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Rodney, do you want to address purchase and Ash?
I have nothing at this time, but we are working on it, and I'll find out, give you more information.
That's all I ask. And the mill pond.
That's a little deeper
Okay.
conversation needed with engineers, environmentalists, and others as to what can be done with a mill pond. And nobody at this board up here has the expertise to comment on it.
Okay. I understand it's a deep subject. However, the silt is building up, so the pond is not as deep as it could or should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else with new business? Please introduce yourself.
Joanne Magucci, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 2. I wanted to present to the board tonight some takeaways from last night's zoning board meeting, and especially to the item regarding number 180 through 182 Pine Street and 75 Sylvan Street development. A large number of residents of our neighborhood last night came out to the zoning board meeting, and what the developer, just to give a little background, was in front of the zoning board last night was to get a zoning change for a piece of the property that is still zoned as industrial to make it residential. It's going to be they were proposing an 8-unit condominium development. Gladly that the board, the zoning board, I think pushed it to January 13th, but they did not have the votes to pass the zoning change. And residents were happy with, I think, with that. So it's only 7 units, I think, as it stands now. But a large number of concerns were raised by residents and myself at this meeting, although we are aware that the zoning board does not have the authority to fix these problems. We're hoping that raising these issues before the town tonight can start a conversation with the board our community in the area of Hyde and Pine and Collins, sort of the Highlands area, about this development. One of the major concerns that rose quickly to the top was the environmental concerns. As a lot of you probably know, 75 Sylvan Street is the former Sylvania plant, lighting plant. There's concerns about after it was closed in the 90s, I think the soil was capped, I believe. I'm not sure about all the what environmental steps were taken, but there are many concerns from the residents about disturbing this soil, not only for the groundwater, but for what particles are going to be presented in the air from the construction dust. It may be a good thing to get in the mind of the town that if this development through the planning board is approved, that there needs to be an environmental study done or mandated through the EPA by the town for this developer before anything is built there. 180 and 182 Pine Street, that piece of the parcel, it's no longer owned by 75 Sylvan Street. It was sold to a different developer, I believe, last year. That and a piece of the 75 Sylvan Street, which is on abuts Adams Street. So the 180 and 182 Pine Street is a buffer for the neighborhood. It was promised as a buffer 20 years ago when the property was redeveloped. So the neighborhood would have a buffer from the noise and such, and it was made into a nice green space, a nice park. I know a lot of folks bring their dogs there, they play fetch and, you know, just hang out, you know, and it's a nice thing for the neighborhood. And now that is going to be removed, that promise. One of the things I think the town needs to be reflective on is that why at the time when this was promised to the neighborhood that the town didn't rezone 180 and 182 as an open green space, protected it. You know, I would like the town to look into that, why that wasn't done, and what we can do now. Other concerns that were raised, and I know many residents have complained in the past about the corner of Hyde and Pine Street. It is a treacherous intersection. We have many cars that are from the I think it's 2 cars from the 174 condominium complex. Since that was built, has caused a lot of problems on that corner for those residents that live on that corner with parking vehicles that are not allowed in that condominium complex because they don't have an update registration or they have expired inspection stickers. So now they're on our town streets illegally, and they haven't moved. They're using it as their own personal parking lot on the corner of Hyde and Pine for weeks on end, nights on end. Other concerns are the traffic on Pine. There have been complaints by myself and others to the Traffic Advisory Board last year about the speed on Hyde. It's a cut through from Collins to Pine to Pine to Collins.
If I may,
Yes.
I hear your concern about the development.
Yep.
I'm aware that at one point in time was supposed to have been left as a buffer and open space.
Yes.
So that's something that needs to be investigated.
Yes.
I'm aware of the traffic problems on Hyde,
Yes.
and you've come before the Traffic Advisory
Yes, I
Committee.
have. You know that I have, Dan.
Right, and they've never come back to us with any,
Nothing's been done. They did
Right.
a speed one of those speed
right.
counters up on the light pole.
Well, I think the concern was the parking on the,
Parking and the speed.
And the speed.
And the speed. And the speed is still 30 miles an hour on Hyde Street. It's a rural road. There's no sidewalks. And you have children walking to the school bus at the end of Hyde on Collins. You have a
so
lot
if
of...
I may,
Yep. Yeah.
the
I'll
open
just-
space,
yeah.
the speeding, the
Traffic.
parking, traffic.
So,
Those
and-
are all issues that need to be looked at
Right.
before we can make a decision. It's
Right.
not for us to tell.
Oh, right, absolutely.
okay, so-
I'm just saying these are the concerns that were raised last night, so I'll move on quickly
Thank you.
because I know I only have 2 minutes. So a lot of the residents were also angry about not finding out about this development until very late in the game. Some didn't get notice, some got notice very late. And even though they did, they rallied a lot of the residents in the area to come to the meeting last night. I would like the town to look into a different way to notify residents at an earlier date about these developments. There's a lot that is proposed in this town, and I think there's going to be a lot of more angry meetings if some things aren't done to negate that. Maybe a first notice and a second notice, maybe something on Facebook. There's things that I'm willing to discuss with some ideas. So, but I'd like the board to kind of look inward into the planning department on how that process can improve for our residents. I know a lot of residents don't feel they have a voice in this process. People are very busy. They have families. They have other things they need to take care of in their lives. Everybody knows it. We rely on the town to do right by the residents, and I don't think the residents are feeling that love. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for bringing this to our
I
attention.
hope we can work together and,
Yeah,
and
we
find
can.
some solutions.
I think we can ask the interim town manager, one, to look at the notification process. I mean, I have an issue with that myself.
Yep. Yeah.
The traffic, can we lower the speed limit? That's up to the police chief, whether or not he will lower the speed limit in a given area.
Yep.
A number of years ago, there was a law passed that towns could establish a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. At that time, we didn't do that. We left it for the chief to make a recommendation to this board. So I'd like a recommendation from the chief whether to lower the speed limit in that area or not to,
Yeah. Okay.
okay?
And just my last point, very quickly, Dan, is that where we do have a lot of developers coming into town now because of the new zoning laws that were passed and the MBTA law that was passed, you know, residents kind of throw their arms up in the air. Oh, all this building, we can't. They feel like they have no control over it. I'm going to say that the feeling that I get from a lot of residents, including myself, is that the majority do not want this development. And the town needs to also look inward as to ways to ease it into the town. If there's going to be development, it's got to be the right kind. And what worried me last night was a comment made by the developer's lawyer, was that if there's open space, we're going to build on it. That is not what this town needs, any town needs. And that disturbed me, that it is open game in Danvers.
One last request to the manager. I know you're working on updating the open space. You've got a firm going out taking pictures of it and
Categorizing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Where are we on that process?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's still very exploratory at this point, but it'll be a multi-month process. Yep,
All right, 'cause we should identify open space and
absolutely.
stuff that is not allowed for
And
development.
if I could, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
please.
Joanne,
Yes.
thank you for your concerns and
Thank
speaking
you,
up for the
Maureen.
neighbors. If they're unregistered or anything like that, the police should be called and they should be towed.
They have, it's one particular resident from that condo complex. It's still happening. I mean, they were parking boats on that corner on trailers. I mean, it's just,
Town manager, if you could look into that for.
so I have, I can pass along the information on those vehicles. Because it doesn't even, they need to stop parking there. This isn't their parking lot. And the residents are just beside themselves, and rightfully so.
Well, I would call the chief, Joanne, again,
Okay.
and then if
Yep.
Rodney could maybe follow up on that too, that would be great.
That would be wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, please. Mr. Bates.
Good evening, Bill Bates, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 4. I want to first follow up on the issue of the closed roads under construction and apologize to the board. November 19th, I completely missed your meeting, and it was not on my calendar, and somebody said to me the next day, "Did you see the selectmen's meeting?" I said, "There was no meeting last night." They said, "Oh, yes, there was." I appreciate that the board followed up, and after I watched the video, and I continue to work with Chief Lovell and the town manager, and we need to look at, there was a time Massachusetts passed a law that said you could have civilian flag people if a chief cannot get enough details. And that's the initial, what I'm hearing, is sometimes that's why they're closing a road versus detouring. It's because they can't get enough details. So we're going to do some homework. Rodney just told me that there's a letter that he's sending to me to follow up on this, and I will keep you posted and stay informed, please. The other thing I'd like to mention is the code of conduct for residents, perhaps. I went back in my town meeting book. I have a 2007 code of conduct, from Wayne Markey and the Board of Selectmen on September 24th, 2007. And it talks about the code of conduct if you're on a board, if you're a volunteer, and how you interact. I want to suggest to you that we need to also educate our residents about how they need to interact with the boards. There was a selectmen's meeting not too long ago where we had a citizen, and he's a business person in this town, used profanity and then went after a selectman's son. I find that disgusting and out of order. And I hope, and also last night, the zoning board meeting, a comment was made to the attorney that she ought to be ashamed of herself. And the chairwoman was kind enough to say that that was out of order also. The lady is doing her job. She has every right. She's partaking in a process like we're all trying to do. So the bottom line is, what can we do to restore respect when we're debating? They're tough issues, but we've got to be respectful. And I hope that the board will entertain some idea of a code of conduct for residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I do have a comment to make and a follow-up. Not too long ago, the state Supreme Court made a ruling that allows the audience leeway, freedom of speech, and have taken away some of our authority sitting here to try to control a meeting. My response was to put in public business is welcome, but we try to limit to 2 minutes so that we don't have 10 minutes of a triade. I don't know what else we can do. That's up to the town's attorney to advise us. Seriously. We've looked at it.
Profanity is allowed?
You know, it shouldn't be allowed. And the next time that I have, if I'm still here next year, and we have a large crowd, there will be rules requesting no profanity. Allow everybody to speak before you jump up and try to speak 2 or 3 times. Let everybody in the crowd or the audience have a chance to speak first. Those are some simple things that we can do from this side.
I'll volunteer to help in any way I can.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Anyone else, new public business? All right, thank you all very much. Number 3, the board will consider the application of BYO Events, Mike Dermesian, manager for a one-day wine and malt license at Copyright Center, 222 Rosewood Drive, December 12th, 24, 12 to 2. Somebody here to speak to that? Please introduce yourself to the folks at home.
Hello, thank you. My name is Michael Demerchian, and
Welcome.
I'm a partner in BYO Events.
Okay, and what do you want to do?
We're looking to bartend an event that the Copyright Clearance Center has called us back for. We did the same event last year. It's essentially a corporate function for their staff as a little holiday gathering, and they plan on serving beer and wine, having food from Henry's, and having a good time.
Madam Clerk, all the paperwork in order?
The paperwork is in order.
Thank you. Questions, David?
Nothing, thank you.
Mike?
No questions, thank you.
Maureen?
No, I'm all set, thank
Oh,
you.
my goodness. Dee?
No questions, thank
Oh,
you.
wow, you're getting off scot-free tonight. But this is not the first time you've done this event, correct? Thank
Correct.
you. What's the will of the board?
So moved that we approve and consider the application BO, well, twice.
As presented.
As presented.
Thank
yes.
you. Is there a second?
Second?
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. Good luck. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Number 4, the board will consider the application of Lisa Moriarty and Carrie Spiros, event coordinators for a first-time block party on Saturday, December 14, 24, 4 to 6:30 p.m., blocking Fowler Street between 16 and 19 Fowler. Rain date Sunday, December 15th, 4 to 6:30. Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the folks at home.
Hi, my name is Lisa Moriarty, and I'm here on behalf of Fowler Street, Crane, Arthur, for this Danvers Christmas Lights event. As some of you may remember, Arthur Street used to have this beautiful Christmas light set up. And once they moved, the neighborhood kind of wanted to keep that up. So we've been slowly building back up. This is our second year of doing a fundraiser for Boston Children's Hospital as well. So besides the light display on this particular day, we're having the Lynn Public Schools Music Department, that's where I work. Some of my high school students are coming to perform, as well as having space for a lot of the kids in our neighborhood to, we're gonna be making cookies, hot cocoa, making some crafts, and we're gonna have some music and a movie playing. So we were looking to block off space for the safety of everybody.
Okay, all the paperwork in order?
It is, thank you.
Okay, questions, D?
Just a quick question. Are all the neighbors notified?
Yes.
And how did that happen?
The paperwork that was sent in was also given to everyone in our neighborhood. It's the same paper that was given last year.
And you got the thumbs up?
Got thumbs ups.
Thank you. That sounds fun. And is it just for the people on the street or?
No, we put him in the mailboxes of our neighborhood, and then I know Carrie, who I'm working with, also posted it on Facebook, and I've posted it on Facebook as well. So anyone in Danvers is welcome to come to the fundraiser. Should be a fun day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All set.
Maureen?
I think it's great. I remember driving by all the lights there, and for the proceeds to go to Boston Children's Hospital is great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
Mike?
No, great idea. Perfect. Bring the neighborhood together. Thank you.
David?
Thank you, Chairman. On Fowler Street, aren't there a couple houses with a lot of beautiful lights that they put up?
Yes.
Yeah, there's one up on Hobart Street too, and down on Liberty Street, there are some really festive houses. They make that out in Winchester, that Jerry Jingle Highway always had like the greatest lights in Massachusetts, and now I think we have them in Danvers. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What's the will of the board?
I say we approve as presented.
Is there a second?
Sec.
Mike, second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. Good luck. Hope you have a good day, weather.
Thank you.
Number 5, Paul Pollock, representing HRIC, will speak about upcoming events. Mr. Pollock.
Yes,
Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. As mentioned, my name is Paul Pollock. I'm Chairman of the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, and I'm just here to mention a couple of events that we're having. One is in December, on December 30th. It's the annual menorah lighting, which will take place in the Danvers Square, right by the big Christmas tree right there. And it's we do this annually during the Hanukkah season, so that we have the fire, the police, we have a dropping of the gelt candy, yeah, and we raise the hook and ladder pretty high, and the kids have a great time. We're looking to get something maybe a little different. I won't mention it right now. It'll be a surprise if it can work out. But it's a fun time and we celebrate the Jewish community here, as we always do.
What time?
Any questions on that event?
The time.
Oh, yes, that's a good point. 6 o'clock, 6
Thank you.
p.m. It probably runs for 45 to an hour, maybe. But the rabbi, Barber, will run the whole show. I'll just introduce him, okay? Anything on that event?
No, that's fine. Go
Okay,
ahead.
and then the last one, I'm just going to pre-announce it. It's upcoming. You'll know about it in January, the annual Martin Luther King celebration, which will be on January 20th at the Danvers High School from 4 to 6 p.m. We'll give you more information on that as we approach that date. now. Was there a question about the American Indian plaque?
Well, it's a thought. What, if your committee would look at that and think
We're
about
doing
it?
this before Bill brought it up, and Bill comes to our meetings all the time, and I think he's stealing our thunder a little bit, but he knows what's going on. We're looking forward to trying to do something. Right now, we're beginning work with the Historical Society, to try to do this the right way. It's not going to happen right away. We're going to have some meetings, try to coordinate some ideas, and not knowing where we're going, whether it would be a plaque or a small statue or something that would honor those folks that were here before we came. And there was a mention of the site down near the port, where originally I believe there was an Indian settlement years and years ago, and I'm not familiar with the Indian tribes were, but that's possible.
That
So,
was probably a seasonal site where they came and did their fishing in the warm weather.
yep, right on the, with the tide in and out.
Yep.
So but that sounds like a good idea, but I'm just throwing that out as that type of an idea. Throwing it out, maybe the fish. But anyway, we'll see how it works out. We're going to move forward on it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Board members, questions for Mr. Pollock? Yes, David?
Paul, perhaps you have already thought about including Dick Trask in your discussions about the concept and location. He probably knows a lot about where the original owners of the land lived, and so I hope you'll be in touch with Dick
We
Trask.
will be, yes.
Yeah, and a great idea. Thank you, Paul.
Encyclopedia on Danvers. Yeah. Anything else?
I mean, I can't help but put a plug in for the MLK event in January. It's an amazing event that happens at the high school, and I believe that the Martin Luther King holiday is more than a holiday. It's really a vision of the world we all want to live in, regardless of race, religion, background, and everything. So it's for everyone. It's not just for some. And whether you're a long-term resident or new in the community, I really encourage you to attend that event. It's a time for us to pause, reflect on where we've been, where we are, and where we want to go. So as Dr. King said himself one time, the time is always right to do what's right. And we may have all come from different ships, but we're all on the same boat now. So please attend that event. It's a good one. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The board will consider a vote to accept a gift in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, from Home Depot to the Danvers Fire Department. Somebody here to speak to this? Chief Barry? Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Brian Barry from the Fire Department. So last week, the refrigerator at Fire Headquarters failed. It was an older refrigerator, and it was not worthy of repairing. So a couple of our on-duty crews were heading to Home Depot to purchase some cleaning supplies for the station. In an effort to be, Rodney, you'll appreciate this, in an effort to be fiscally responsible, I asked them to see if they had any. Sometimes they have like scratch and dent refrigerators there, something that we could get that would be a reasonable price for the station. They did. They reported back to me, and later on that afternoon, the manager of Home Depot at 92 Newbury Street reached out to the department, said he had a display model on the floor that he would be willing to donate to the department. And I appreciate his offer of generosity, and I asked the board to consider accepting that gift.
Mr. Town Manager, do we need a monetary value in this motion?
I don't
Accept?
believe so.
No, just the gift
As they're
itself?
gifting the product. I think
Okay,
that's fine.
thank you. All right, questions, D?
No questions. Thank you. Thank you to Home Depot.
Maureen?
I think it's great. No, thank you. All set.
Mike?
Chief, can you tell us where the dent is on the doors?
I'll let you know. I haven't seen it yet.
I think it's great.
It'll
David?
be there
Thank
before
you.
you see
Nothing,
it.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, very good. What's the will of the board?
Approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Perhaps with a letter to go to Home Depot thanking them?
Thank you. Yep,
Yes,
with a thank you
okay.
note. Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none? Thank you.
Great. Thank you, board.
Thank you. The board will meet graduates of the 2024 Citizens Academy. I guess that's why everybody's here tonight. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it's graduation day for the 2024 Citizens Academy. I believe most, if not all of them, are here. We also have some distinguished alumnus in the audience as well. So I'll turn it over to Assistant Town Manager Jen Breaker, who will tell us about what these cadets experienced over the past 2.5 months.
Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jen Breaker. I'm the Assistant Town Manager, and I'm very excited to be here tonight to recognize our 5th graduating class. At this point, we have graduated almost 100 cadets from the program, and as the interim town manager pointed out, we have 4 former cadets in the room, or almost in the room tonight. All right. So Citizens Academy was developed as a way for residents to take a deep dive into their local government. The program is a 10-week up-close view of Danvers municipal government. Participants, who we kindly call cadets, explore various departments through a variety of classes and interactive activities. Over the summer, we advertised the program, and in early September, we accepted 18 cadets into the program. In this class, we have some folks that have lived in Danvers from 3 months to many who have lived in Danvers their whole lives. We have 3 couples, 2 sisters who also happen to be town employees. Starting on Saturday, September 12th and going through November 21st, the academy was held at various locations around town from 6 to 8:30. Before we dive into what the cadets did every week, I have to thank the many Town and Danvers team members who make the Citizens Academy possible. This includes folks who presented, who helped set up presentations and activities, who set up the room each week. Everyone did their part to make sure the Academy was a huge success. Additionally, I have to thank Ann Freitas in the town manager's office, who is key in helping me put together the program before it kicks off, and Cheryl Stanford, who ordered the pizza every week and made sure it got to the locations as we moved around town, a very important responsibility. On September 12th, the cadets joined staff right here in the room for their first night of the academy. Welcome bags awaited them on their chairs. Inside the bags was the binder, which contained PowerPoint presentations for each week, budget books, annual town reports, recycling and trash information, and so much more. Cadets were welcomed by Select Board Member Mills, then heard a general town government overview from the town manager. They also heard about the work of the Finance Committee, a town meeting overview by town moderator Pat Frazier, and to close out the night, the cadets learned all about elections in the town clerk's office. For week 5, the cadets heard from the Finance Division, which included assessing, accounting, treasurer collector, and retirement. They discussed the work they do to support the finances of the town. The finance director led the cadets through a riveting budget activity where cadets had to balance a budget, deciding and justifying where to make cuts. All of the cadets said they loved the budget activity, and it helped them understand the process better. For the 3rd week, we headed to the fire department, which was determined to have the best chairs in the town of Danvers. Cadets heard from Chief Barry and Deputy Schaffner on all aspects of the department, including a very unexpected 40-minute deep dive into the org chart and the staffing of the department. They went on a tour, they got to see the extraction equipment in use, and they were able to go up in the tower truck if they signed a waiver. One cadet said they were able to appreciate the emotional toll that must be felt by firefighters, but also the work ethic and ultimate goals of rescue and safety displayed by the firefighters. For week 4, we headed to Hobart Street to hear from the divisions in the Public Works Department. Forestry, buildings, equipment, streets, trash and recycling, water treatment, engineering, and the business office presented. It was a content-full night. The DPW shared the work they do to support the community, ongoing projects, fleet maintenance, and one cadet commented that with each session, I'm developing a greater appreciation for what it takes to run and maintain the town and the people who do it, a compliment to all of the DPW divisions. On October 10th, the cadets heard from Inspectional Services and Planning and Economic Development in the library. The building commissioner chatted with us about the rules and regulations, laws, and zoning the office must follow, and the Inspectional Services team highlighted some current projects happening around town. Planning was ready to really get the cadets thinking. After discussing the work of the office and helping the cadets learn more about zoning, they let the cadets rezone the Endicott Street corridor. Cadets were provided with a map of the area, Post-it notes that were color-coded for different types of zoning, and worked as a team to develop what they would want to see. Planning took the maps back to the office for inspiration and have recently referenced some of the ideas they heard during this night in a budget meeting. We continue to move through Danvers in week 6 of the program, heading to Endicott Park to hear from Recreation and Library. The library team busted some library myths. There's no late fees. They shared the work they do in the community and highlighted the library of things. Then the recreation team took over to chat with the cadets about the Fun Club programming and how Endicott Park develops programming. And the cadets worked together to develop new programming they'd like to see recreation offer, where the recreation director promised them all of their ideas would be implemented. During week 7, Chief Level welcomed the cadets and took them on a tour of police and dispatch, followed by an overview of the department that included statistics and community needs the department addresses. The PD team covered criminal investigations and shared about community services and the work and challenges the division encounters, including various programs they offer in the public schools. A cadet commented that each and every time they've interacted with the police officer in Danvers, they were always polite and professional. Hats off to them. Set up in the senior center, cadets heard from the veteran service officer on the programs the division oversees and the resources available to Danvers veterans and their families. The senior center staff spoke about programs and services they provide and how they're funded. Cadets learned what makes a good newsletter and worked in teams to develop a monthly newsletter. To end the night, the cadets heard from public health and learned about the various ways public health interacts with the community beyond flu shots. Cadets were very impressed about the amount of information shared on the community resources available from all 3 departments. In week 9, the cadets headed to another garage bay. I promise it was clean. The electric department garage bays became the classroom. The IT department kicked off the night and covered the work they do to maintain the municipal technology, how we send and receive emails, and recent projects and future projects. The electric divisions discussed our power portfolio, simplified the power grid, and discussed energy conservation. They finished the night with a power safety demonstration. For the final week of the academy, the cadets headed over to the Danvers High School Library to learn more about the public schools. They were greeted by Superintendent Bauer and Assistant Superintendent Warmers. An overview of the district started the presentation. It included things about cost per pupil, strategic plans, student engagement, and more. Then students took over the night. They joined cadets and led them in an activity they do during community block. During this activity, you sit back to back with one partner looking at the screen that might have an image like the one in the lower left corner. And the partner who can see the screen describes what they're seeing without using words like apple, fruit. And the second partner tries to draw what they are being described to, like you may see in the top right-hand corner. Cadets did a very good job of this. They each took turns. The students said it was some of the best work they've seen. Cadets then headed down the hall to see the manufacturing program, and students demonstrated the work they do. To end the night, the cadets were invited to the opening night of the high school musical Mean Girls. It was the perfect way to close out the academy sessions. And that brings us to tonight. The cadets have worked very hard. They have shown up every Thursday, almost perfect attendance class. They asked great questions, engaged in the discussions and group work, and they made us very proud to serve them and the Danvers community. Before we recognize the graduating cadets by calling them up to receive their certificate, I would be happy to take any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Dee?
Well, no question, this is a feel-good moment. It's fun. Maybe we should have one of these, Mr. Chairman, for the select board members.
We're going to sign up next year, yeah.
Seems like it was really fun. Well, I just want to say thank you to all the cadets. This is a big commitment. 10 weeks is not a small amount of time. And thanks, Jen and Rodney, for putting this together. Your dedication for the cadets of learning about the local government is really commendable. Because every small effort that you make count. And I'll quote someone I like to quote, Margaret Mead, who once said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." So stay engaged, stay curious, and together we can make a difference. So thank you and congratulations. That's it.
Maureen?
Congratulations to everybody, and I think that's a good idea. We should do it next year.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Count me in.
Yeah, you want to?
Jen, this is the fourth year?
This is the fifth year.
Fifth year,
Of the
okay.
program.
Thank
Yep.
you. Good, great. David?
Thank you, Dan. I just wanted to say to Jen, as I've said before, this is one of the most impressive things that I have seen, not just in my 12 years on this board, but in my many years, I'm forbidden to say the number by Mr. Bradstreet, of being in the community. Phenomenal job, Jen.
Thank you.
And everything that Dee said, I would just like to say ditto. And I'm reminded of my father, who was town moderator for 23 years, and before that, he had been on the finance committee, and he was devoted to the town of Danvers. And he would often say, embrace your government, because if you don't, somebody else will. And you have proven that you are embracing our government for your benefit and for ours. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you. Michael?
Dee and Dave stole all my words. I'm not going to be able to say it as well as they did, but congratulations to everybody. I think it's awesome to be involved. I think we have to be involved and get our neighbors involved. I think I can make this mesh into last night's meeting, that the more people that are involved, the more things can get done that you need to have happen the way you want your community to go. It's just that simple. The more of us that participate, the more better ideas, good ideas we're going to have, and the more we're going to get done. Everybody does a little bit, we get it done, instead of a few people having to do a lot. But thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mike.
So I was asked yesterday in an interview, what is it that I like about Danvers? And my answer is the community is involved and they care. We have the Friends of Danvers Recreation, Friends of Endicott Park, Friends of the Library, Friends of the Senior Center, Friends of Recreation. We have Kiwanis, we have Rotary, we have a small Lions Club, and now we have the Citizens Academy, where the citizens contribute to the community's welfare. They're interested and they care. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to have the chair and the interim town manager come up and help me give out the certificates.
Do we have a choice?
No, you do not. And if all the cadets
Happy to
can
do it.
stick around, we will take a group photo of the class out on the stairs before you all leave. It's probably a little easier because it's usually a little crowded.
Want 2 mics? Make a difference. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Selectman Mills for stepping in for me and to welcome you folks. I was away and couldn't make it, and David was gracious enough to do that. Thank you, David. So we're going to hand out these individually.
Yep.
Paul Danny. Well, you want them up, stay up here or sit down?
They can sit down. We'll take
Okay,
the photo
thank
out on
you.
the stairs.
Kyle Donovan.
Thank you.
Brittany Dove. Nicole Dove, must be the sister. Paul Ellsworth.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Husband. Yeah.
Philip Freed.
This was a wonderful experience.
you.
It really was. Congratulations. Thank you very much. You're very welcome.
Philip, congratulations.
Thank you.
Henry Frizell. Stephen Grisdorf. Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you.
Elaine Harris.
Thank you.
Did you have fun?
Thank you, I did. It was
Good.
great. It was
All right.
really a good learning experience and
Good.
got to see a lot of things.
Alicia Lindsay.
Didn't we move to the fiscal?
Congratulations, we'll take that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Deborah Mixelski.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Stephen Miskalski.
Thank you.
Thomas Moore. Larry Peralt.
Great time, yes.
Congratulations, Larry.
There you go. All right.
Mary Peralt.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gregory Snow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you mind joining us for a photo, Dan?
No, I don't mind. First, I don't usually get my picture taken, but it's okay.
Dan, do you want to take a
Front lobby.
recess?
Hmm?
Take a 5-minute recess?
We can do that. We're gonna take a 5-minute recess for the photo op, so you can all relax.
They should all be.
come back into order, please?
You need the,
Yeah, well,
I have one for you.
I have one. I have two. Okay. Welcome back, Danvers. Then we'll move on to the main event of the night.
Yep.
The board will conduct the annual tax classification hearing. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, is our tax classification hearing. There'll be multiple votes towards the end of it, but first we'll hear a presentation from our Chief Assessor, John LaBelle.
Welcome, John. Introduce yourself for the folks at home, please.
Good evening. I'm John LaBelle. I'm the Chief Assessor for the town.
The Chief Assessor. Thank you.
Chief Assessor, yes. Sorry, I don't have any colorful photos for you. I just have charts and graphs. But the purpose of this meeting is to basically to set the tax rate for the town for the fiscal year '25, as well as there's a couple other options that we have to vote for. Like Rodney likes to say, we've already kind of bought the meal, now we have to divvy up the check. So that's the purpose of this meeting. So in addition to choosing a residential factor, you'll need to vote to adopt or not adopt an open space discount, a residential exemption, or a small commercial exemption. We'll go over those a little bit more in a little bit. Historically, the board has never adopted any of these three. So in summary, we're going to select a minimum residential factor or a CIP shift. Select or don't select an open space discount, grant or not grant a residential exemption, as well as a small commercial exemption. So this chart just shows briefly the makeup of the distribution of values within the town before any shifts take place. Almost 79% residential. It's a heavy residential town, and it's kind of been that way. If you look at the chart down below, the residential's grown about 2% over the last 5 years, so it's maintained fairly stable. That majority of the town is residential. This is a breakdown of the valuation changes overall. Total residential is up a little over 4%. We don't have any what the state classifies as open space. There's none of that in town. Overall commercial values are up a little over 3%. Industrial, 2%. Personal property, 1%. And overall, it's 3.8% roughly total valuation change from last year. Within the residential class, apartment buildings are up about 4.85%. Three families, just under 2%. Two families, about 5.5%. Condos, 5.8%. And single families, about 3.4%. Feel free to stop me along the way if you have any questions. Here's a levy comparison, comparing last year's levy to this year's levy. On the right side, you'll see the prior levy limit. We add our 2%, 2.5% for Prop 2.5. To that, we add our new growth for a total levy limit of 95.8. So that's our max. Our actual levy, what we're actually spending is 95.7. This chart here explains how we came up with the growth. A majority of it is in the residential class, closely followed by the personal property. Commercial, industrial growth has been a little slow the last couple of years. So I don't know if you want to skip over the no, we'll go into the comparing towns, right? So a residential factor of 1 would be a single tax rate, which the town hasn't done in a long time. But I will tell you how we calculate that next, because that's kind of the starting point. So to do that, the left side of the screen is what we call the LA4. That's addendum number 2 in the actual report that I gave you. This sums up all the total values in town by class. So the total taxable value is circled down in red, the 7.5 billion. To get the uniform tax rate, we divide that by the actual levy, and that gives us a uniform tax rate of 1264. So that's if there's no shift at all, that's what the tax rate would be. And just to kind of make a point, that uniform tax rate's been going, as values have been going up the last few years, that uniform tax rate has actually been going down. Last year, the uniform tax rate was 1272. In FY23, it was 1354. So as values go up, tax rates tend to come down. This chart shows the history of the average single-family tax bill. This year's to be determined. And this is the average tax bill of some of the surrounding communities. This is last year's numbers. To date, only 3 of these towns have actually chosen a tax rate so far. So I don't have updated FY25 data for you.
What do you have?
Middleton, who doesn't shift. North Reading, who doesn't shift. They've both chosen, and the other one is Burlington. I don't have what their shift number was. I can tell you what their tax rates are, but I can't tell you the percentage.
Okay, thank you.
So again, on this chart, Danvers is the red line, the state average is the yellow line, and the other communities there are there in blue. So this is the town's historic shifts over the last few years. As you can see, we started out usually around 78, 79%. And historically, over the last few years, we've kind of come into this 2/3, 1/3 ratio. That's what's been happening. But we'll figure that out tonight, where that ends up. This is the historic shifts of those same surrounding towns. Again, this is last year's data.
So while we're on this page, John, if I can ask a question?
Sure.
So last year, we had the ability to go over 1.5.
Correct.
We were in that upper tier where
Yep.
a lot of the other communities are.
Yep.
This year, we're not
Correct.
allowed. Why is that? Or how could we do it last year and not this year?
It's based on, and I have an example of it, I believe, in the report. Let me see.
Yeah, because we did 1.5.
It's based on, it's a mathematical equation. So we take, if I go back a slide here. If I go back to what we ended up, we take that 31.32 where we were at last year. We multiply that by 1.5 because the law says you can shift 1.5% of the commercial rate over. So we take that number times 1.5, and we compare that to where the, we compare that number to, let me find it, it's,
Allowable shift tax for
Yeah,
FY25?
we take this, oh, sorry, I said that wrong. We take this year's commercial percentage before the shift, multiply by 1.5, and we compare it to that number. We compare it to the shifted residential. If it's under, we can go over. If it's over, we can't. So the math said we can't do it this year. If you go to page 8 of the report, which I don't have on the slides, but we have last year's chosen residential percentage, okay? And then we take this year's current CIP before shift times 1.5. And since that number is below last year's chosen shifted residential percentage, we can't go beyond it. Last year, it was percentage points higher.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, if I could. So first of all, if anyone wants to follow along, these documents are on the town's website under the assessing section as well. And again, just to echo John, it's a very convoluted formula. It's recalculated each year, but essentially, because this year, just going to 1.5, we could lower that residential factor below what we did last year. That means we can't go to 1.75. It's the clearest way in 7 years of doing this. I figured out how to explain that, so.
So was it predictable that when we set the rate last year, that this year we would not go over the 1.5?
No, because we never know where the numbers are going to be next year.
Based on the values?
Exactly.
It's based on the values, yeah.
We want to explain that to the
Yeah,
people at home.
Yeah, so like this year, the commercial sector this year is kind of funky. Parts of it are going up, parts of it are going down. For instance, office space, the values have dramatically gone down
Right.
due to vacancy. So that impacts the overall value portion that class makes up. So, you know, retail was a little bit better, so some of those went up, but office space going down a lot. We have a lot of office space in town that it's 40, 50% vacant, so those values have
So
dropped.
is it reasonable to assume for the next couple of years, we'll not be able to go above 1.50 because of the value of?
If the market rebounds, then you may be able to do it in the future. It's
Well,
hard to say.
it's not going to rebound overnight.
Overnight, no.
No, next
but-
year or two, but sometime in the future, we
But
can't
again,
predict.
what you choose this year impacts it next year as well. I just can't predict what it is.
Right, and I think my point is, last year when we had the opportunity, we didn't do it, but we weren't told that picking what we did would affect next year.
Correct. Again, I can't predict the future with the office space and things like that.
Right, okay, all right, thank you. Anyone else has questions up to this time?
If I can, yes.
You may.
So with the down of the commercial side, that hurts us on the residential side, right? Because we're working with the same end product, right, end number? Just shifting it? Is it more complicated than that?
Well, no, your residential is still going to make up a majority of the value, no matter what the commercial does. It's just how far they dip. No one's really building a lot of new commercial space in town right now. You know, you have the new Fidelity building going up. But other than that, there's not a lot of large commercial things. You know, we had some stuff over on Cherry Hill, some expansions and things like that, but there's no new buildings going up in the commercial and industrial space.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, but to your point, Mike, that's correct. So if commercial's flat and residential, you know, and you see this when the residential market's hot, you're creating a natural shift that more of the levy is being made up by the residential.
Right.
Yeah.
And will the new buildings that are being built and proposed, will they inflate the commercial side?
The ones in the square?
Yeah.
I haven't seen, as far as like the hardware store, I haven't seen those plans to see how much of that is commercial. The one under construction now is, I think, less than 10% commercial when you look at the total square footage of the building. So that will have a mixed rate, so yeah, that will help the commercial a little bit, but not, it's mostly residential that you're getting out of that.
So again, through you, Mr. Chair, where that will help would be creating the new growth that, you know, their new value will create a new tax bill for that property.
Okay. So that helps us on our residential tax. But then our residential output goes out, more services. right? We'll need more services for more people. So,
Okay, all set, Mike?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, continue, John.
All right. Wait, where I was?
Yes,
Are we good with this slide?
we're good.
All right. So this is just an example. Again, you have the full number of options as an addendum to your report. These are just some showing all residential, all commercial this year with potential shifts. These are all kind of in the range of where the town has been the last handful of years. Just an example, but again, you have the full array to choose from tonight. And then this breaks it down a little bit more within the residential class as far as potential for the single-family, condo, and two-family average bills, and what the potential increase in yearly taxes would be. And at this point, that's all the numbers I had for you.
Okay, so at this point, board members, I'll open it up to questions. Hold your comments till later. Questions, Maureen?
No, I just want to hear what everybody else is saying right now. But I was concerned with what you said about us doing the 175 and not knowing it was going to have an impact this year.
And we can't this year.
Now, so,
right?
okay, no, I'm going to hold it for
Okay,
afterwards.
D,
yeah.
questions?
No, no questions. Thank you.
Mike, any other questions?
no, I don't at the moment.
David?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'm going to open up with comments, if I may, thank you. And as the assessor noted, the rates go down. But he didn't say the taxpayers can pay more. So I'm going to quote from a Boston Globe article of July 7th of this year. Nationally, home prices have jumped about 50% over the last 5 years. Here in Massachusetts, the median sales price of single-family homes in Greater Boston soared to a record high $950,500 in May. John, you agree with that or dispute it?
I don't dispute it.
According to a report of the Greater Boston Association of Realtors released in June. Statewide, the average single-family tax bill clocked in at $7,400 for fiscal 2024, roughly a 19% increase since 2019, when bills averaged $5,993. Data compiled by the state's Division of Local Services show that the total is actually 3% higher than the jump recorded in the previous 5-year period between 2014 and 2019. Rising property taxes also have a real impact on income-restricted residents, including seniors. So, and I think those are all pretty obvious comments. As we set the tax classification rate this year, I would ask my fellow board members to look at the dollar increase across the board in the residential condos, two families, and ignore the percentages. That's a distraction. The last couple of years, we look at the percentage increase for this and for that. Let's focus in on the dollars this year and see where we can be helpful, if you will, to the residents, the single-family homeowners, the condo homeowners. If we had been allowed to go to the 175, I would have thought of going to a factor of about 157 this year. We can't do that. We're limited to 1.50. So other comments, Maureen?
No, I agree. That was great data, Mr. Chairman, that you, let's look at the dollars for the residents this year. You know, I'm all for that. Please. Thank you.
D?
Yes, I want to thank John, the tax assessor in his office, for the hard work in compiling and analyzing all these numbers. When I received my book, I was like, whoa, what is this? So, and thanks, Rodney. We spent countless hours for them to explain to me what this was all about. And I also want to officially thank some residents that I reached out to, including Mr. Bates sitting back there, to kind of talk about this issue. Spoke to some former selectmen, including Mr. Kid Lucy, to understand what this means for us and the resident. My goal is to ensure that tax classification remains fair and balanced for everyone. I review over 20 years of data, and the numbers I'm hoping we approve today do lean slightly toward favoring residents, as the chairman said, because we all know everyone could use a little bit of relief, especially in these challenging times. It's also worth noting, and I will apologize to Select Board Member David Mill for bringing this up. It's also worth noting that the trash fee last year was it's something that the resident had to incur that the businesses did not. So as we look at the numbers this year, I hope that we make sure that the tax classification is equitable and that it reflects the needs and the circumstances of the members of our community. So I'll be leaning more toward giving a break to the residents as well. So thank you.
Thank you. David?
Nothing, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Michael?
I can't speak as well as, God bless you, as well as Dee does, but I'm on the same track. I want to keep it as lean as we can for the taxpayers. And it's a tricky balance because you don't want to hurt commercial. We don't want to scare commercial businesses away, and there's plenty of businesses that are residents here too. But the 78% of the base is residents, so I'm just hoping we can do the best on that end.
So I'd like to build some consensus, and I think I hear consensus on the board about looking at somewhat favoring residential tax rate, partially to offset the increase in the trash fee last year as a way to help. There's no number here that will set the tax residential factor as a zero increase. It doesn't exist, unfortunately. So if we look at the last page in the book is where I'm at, and if you're all on that same page with me, and if we drop down to the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers, if there's somebody that wants to step up and pick a number that we can consider for conversation, I would like to hear that number, i.e. 1.495 through 1.5.
What do you say, 1.495?
Yeah, 1.9.
495, you said?
6, I'm sorry, 6 to 1.5. If anybody likes one of those numbers.
And can you explain to the residents, well, we're on
Well,
TV, what the
yeah,
increase
what we're
would be?
looking at,
Yeah.
the increase for a single family this year would be between $151.41 to $147. That's on the condominium side. The single family would be $149.12 to $142.19. A difference between $2 and $5
So what's that amount?
increase.
Yeah, what's that amount? Just so they
Well,
know.
the single family at
Yeah.
1.5.
Yeah.
The increase is 1.4219, $142.19. Condominium, 147. Two-family, 314.98. And all residential, 175.08. And just for disclosure, I don't own a single family, but I own property in 4 of the other categories. So whichever way this goes, my 3 families are going to get bumped, my condo is going to get bumped, my personal property is going to get bumped, and my business office is going to get bumped. I'm leaning this way.
We could buy you dinner. We could buy you dinner.
Thank you. I'll pick up the tip.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I mean, if I know you said not to look at the percentage and look at the numbers.
I mean, you can look at the percentages, but it's still a distraction. It's the real numbers. When I get my tax bill, I look at the number.
Yeah, because like Select Board Member Mike said, we want to be sensitive to the business also who are, they just came out of COVID, they still could. So I was leaning more toward a 1.488 because that way is the increase across the board is about 3.3% for resident, commercial, and new growth. When I do the calculation. Again, this is not a hill to die on, but
The difference is, as you go down, incremental, when you're starting at 1.488 up to the 1.5, it's really a matter of what everybody is comfortable with. Mike, do you have a preference or a number? We had Dee's preference.
I like what he said. I'm right there with that.
Okay, Maureen?
I'm going to go with you, Dan.
Okay. David,
Sounds good.
what do you want to do?
Avoid the whole thing.
Not pay tax.
David called me last night. Are we doing tax classification tomorrow?
You're going to call him sick?
I was only calling sick. I don't know. I'm going to be guided by the board and by Rodney. And
It's
by
not
Joe.
Rodney's choice. He has no opinion on this. He's going to spend the money. We're going to tell him how much he has or where it's going to come from. So we don't have we don't get a 50-50 call.
and if I can explain my
Please do.
So, just so people at home can see this, if we go with the uniform tax rate, which we are not even considering, it means everybody's tax is going to go up $1,300, about 18% for the residential, and the businesses are going to go down 30%. We don't want that. So, when we go to the 1.88, for example, the businesses are seeing their tax increase by $1,300, $1,355. But if we go to 1.94, then it's about $1,600 for the businesses.
You're correct. That's a given. It's right there in front of us. It's what number do we want to pick?
So I was thinking the resident will have $170,
$74.
no, 169,
169.
and then the businesses will have 13.
You're correct, Dee. Those are the numbers.
Five.
It's right, those are the numbers. It's what do we want to do? Mike?
I'm going to hang out with Dave over here. Wish I was someplace else.
So,
So the 1.486, Dan, what's that?
1 point,
I'm sorry, Maureen, could you speak?
1.486.
well, that's even lower than D's,
That would be 170,
176.
176.
Right.
That's what I'm going to go with.
So
I'm going to
you're
agree on that.
going to agree on that?
Yeah.
So that would be, am I reading this right, 175? Right, so 176.
176.
Yep.
The 1486 is single-family, $176.86. The condominium would be 169.03, so I would say thank you. Two-family, 351.59. Commercial, industrial, 1311.43.
The 1.486 is 1098.
That's the tax, that's the. Oh, on which one?
Want my glasses?
Which one?
It's $10.98.
$10.99 a thousand.
Is that your motion, Maureen?
That's my motion.
So there's a motion for 1.486. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mike. Any conversation, discussion?
I mean, that's pretty close from the 1.488 that I had, so
Yep.
I would leave with that.
And generally, Dee, when we have this discussion, we're usually within the same, within a couple of lines of each other. I'm not going to support either one of those this year, but we have a motion and a second. Any other conversation? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, there you have it, John.
The 486, is that what it
One.
was?
David, what was your vote?
I didn't vote,
You abstained?
yes.
Abstain. 1.486.
Okay.
So it's 311
311.
and abstain. Okay, thank you.
And that's for this, right?
That's for number one. You can okay. The next motion that I'm looking for is to adopt or not adopt an open space discount. And as John says, we typically do not.
This is
Adopt
the
it.
easy one because there's nothing classified in town as this, so whether you do it or don't do it, it's not really going to
So
change.
we can do it, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or not do it. So I need a
The
motion.
town of Bedford is the only community that I know of that has
I'll make the
classified
motion.
open space.
What is the motion?
Motion to not adopt an open space discount.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. You voting, David?
He did.
Thank you. Motion to grant or not grant a residential exemption. If granting, the percentage may be up to 35%. We've never adopted that, John?
Not that I'm aware of. So that, this is a shift within the residential class. So the residents are still going to have to make up that same portion of the levy that you just chose. It would just shift things from lower price properties to higher price properties.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to not grant.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, none. Thank you. Motion to grant or not grant a small commercial exemption. If granting, the percentage may be up to 10%. We've never adopted that either, John, correct?
Correct.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion not to grant a small commercial exemption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you. Madam Clerk, you got all that?
No, I do have one question. What is the industrial personal property shift of?
Nothing.
The shift is the 1.486. The residential factor is 0.8691.
0.8691 is the residential factor, and the
Correct.
shift is
The 1.486.
1.486.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
All right,
All right, that's all
That's
I
it.
have for you.
that's the main event. Thank you, John.
You're
Thanks for your hard work. Appreciate it. See you next year.
See you next year.
The board is requested to renew liquor licenses for the calendar year 2025 as presented. Madam Clerk?
I have, all of the liquor licenses need to be returned and signed per the ABCC in the month of November. My staff worked very hard to make sure that all of those applications and checks and paperwork were returned within the month of November. I have all of that material available. The only two administrative adjustments we need to make on the form in order to get TGI Fridays off of our book at the ABCC and the Oniontown Grill, we're putting those that they failed to renew. Other than that, everybody is compliant and has renewed.
So, board members, if there's somebody you want to pull out and not vote on and have a discussion, you may do so. Otherwise, I need a motion to approve the list as presented.
I'll second that motion.
No, you're going to make it.
I'll make the motion to approve as presented.
Thank you.
As
Is
presented.
there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I'm sorry, did the clerk say that that's everybody?
All of the licenses. So generally what happens is, let's say we have the 50 licenses that we currently have active. If for some reason they did not return their paperwork, they would have to completely reapply as a new applicant. So in order to make sure that they do that, we send out the paperwork, we work with them, we call them, we make them come in, fill out the paperwork so that we can have everything in hand for this meeting. So that has all been done.
Okay, so we
Yes.
have everyone.
I'm feeling really good about it.
Thank you.
Kathy, do we have a cap on the amount of licenses?
We do. I don't have that exact
We
number.
still have some open ones.
We do have open restaurant licenses. We do not have any store licenses. So we had, at one point in time, got 6 from the, approved from the state for location-specific licenses, which we have issued some of those. I believe there are still 2 location-specific licenses. And then at some time, we added or requested an additional 10 zone licenses, which of those, I think we have 3 that are in use and 7 that are available. And the zone licenses are available, there are 2 different zones, and the way they worked it out was, there's the highway corridor zone, which would be like your Route 1, 128, and then there's the downtown zone, which those 2 areas cover everything that would potentially have a liquor license request. So if we were to issue one in the downtown area, and then that person gave that license up, that license would need to stay within the downtown area. We could reissue it to someone else, but it would have to stay in that area.
Okay, thank
So
you.
we do have plenty. I do get a request every now and again, somebody looking for a store license. Those are based on the federal census numbers, and our numbers did not change for those store licenses.
Okay, thank you. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none, thank you.
Okay, so for the next meeting, so we've approved the licenses. I have the paperwork here for you people to sign.
Now we have to sign them.
And then, so for the next meeting, I've actually got the new licenses for 2025 printed. They're ready to go. So if the board would prefer to stop to see me between now and the next meeting, you can sit and sign the 50 licenses, or we could come early to the next meeting and you could do it here the next time. But if you're in the building for some reason and you want to stop in, you can sign away if you like, if you're here for something else.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Town manager will report to the board on various items of interest. Rodney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things we wanted to mention this evening. First, at our December 17th meeting, we'll be joined by Gabriel Hannafin, the airport manager of the Beverly Airport, to provide some update and address some concerns. So we invite the public to attend that meeting on December 17th. Also last week, the MBTA General Manager, Philip Ng, was in town. He took a tour of the downtown and met with us here in the Toomey Room to discuss the long-term public transportation needs of the community. It's the start of, will be several discussions, but it was a positive discussion, and now our planning department will be in contact with his staff to see what happens from there.
Mr. Town Manager, is any of those meetings with the MBTA public meetings?
I can look into that. There will be eventually public meetings, absolutely, but
Okay.
I think right now it's sort of just background exploratory stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Town reports went out to town meeting members. So kudos to Ann Freitas, who wanted me to point out that they are ahead of schedule. So good news there. And I believe that's all I have for this evening.
Rodney, you're very modest. On November 19th, Rodney and I met with Aaron Bonnie Casey with Mike Serlis over coffee to talk about the Ipswich River Water Association and all the educational efforts that they do. They actually had a program in our 5th grade last year in the classrooms engaging students with an understanding of the watershed, and they also hope to pilot a program in our 7th grade, and we brought that up to Mr. Bauer to make him aware of it. And the DPW, is it Sharon Clement?
Sharon Clement, correct.
Who works with the Ipswich River Association, and they have a good relationship. On November 25th, Rodney, myself, Dan Bauer, met with the headmaster and the principal of St. John's Prep. to talk about areas where we can collaborate and thank them for their contribution to the rail trail in Endicott Park over the years. On Friday, November 26th, through the efforts of Mike Landers, he set up a meeting where we could meet with the Essex Tech superintendent, assistant superintendent, a number of their program directors, our high school principal, Aaron Henry, Chief Lovell, and Barry, to talk about a number of ways to support each other. Rodney is going through hoping to open up communication with the entities in the community. We actually, with North Shore Community College, the Prep, and Essex Tech, have over 7,500 students in Danvers Monday through Friday. Obviously, the college is other times. So that's a big part of the population are using our services, and we're trying to reach out and have a collaborative working relationship with all of them. I don't know President William Hedman at North Shore Community College. I don't know why he's been there for 5 years, but through you, we can set something up in the near future.
Absolutely, Mr.
Now, these aren't public meetings. It's just meet and greet, say hello, what can we do, and establish relationships to go forwards. So thank you, Rodney, for those efforts. Okay, board will consider consent calendar. Can I have a motion on the consent calendar?
Make a motion to, as presented?
There was, I didn't see
What?
anything.
What's that?
Where is the consent? I didn't get the consent calendar. in
You
my-
do. It's the banners, it starts on the, it's all that.
It starts at the bottom of the first page and then goes on the back.
Common viculars, class dealers, class 2 dealers, entertainment. So a question or a mistake here. Smile Earth LLC doing business as McDonald without a D. Am I correct or
A
incorrect?
typographical error.
Okay. So there is a D, 2 Ds in McDonald's.
There
Okay.
would be, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
So do we have a motion to accept as corrected?
I'll make the motion to accept the consent
Second.
calendar.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you.
So let me just, most of the licensing for 2025 has been, most of it has been returned between the last meeting for approval and this meeting here. So we should see, we'll still see some, but the numbers will go down.
This is most of them.
This is most, last week was the bulk.
Okay.
This is some follow-up, and then, there'll be some stragglers along the way.
All right.
Yep.
All right, thank
But
you.
we're in good shape.
Glad to hear that. Correspondence, Selectmen, new business, David?
Nothing, thank you.
D?
Yes, I have a couple of items. If you haven't yet, please stop by Tapley Hall for the Parade of Trees. I was just there this evening, beautiful. And they're running a raffle, and you can walk home with a tree in a few days, so please stop by. I also have a question for the chairman about the new town manager hiring process.
I will get to that when it's my turn to speak.
Okay.
You just want an update, correct?
That's correct, and especially how we're choosing the residents who are going to participate in the search committee.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yes. I would also like to address some of what Mr. Bate had just spoken to about the tone and tenor of the discussions that have become very contentious during our meetings. And I know the Supreme Court said what they can say is free speech. Anyone can say whatever they want. But I can't help but implore our fellow residents to tone it down, especially this holiday season. Let's start the year on new footings. None of us here deserve to be insulted, especially not our chairman. And we can't make anyone not say what they want to say, but all I can do is just implore our residents to tone it down. This isn't about limiting anyone's speech or censorship. It's about creating space where we can express different opinion while treating each other with dignity and respect. So please, neighbor, let's respect each other and treat each other with compassion. Let's disagree without being disagreeable. I know we can do it, and I'm also hoping that as a board, we model that for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. I just want to say to the residents that we do try to keep the tax rate down. You know, expenses, everything costs a lot.
Maureen, could you
I'm sorry.
speak
Yep, we do try to keep the tax rate down for people as we pick that tax factor. It was, you know, really one of the best ones to do. We do want to encourage people to stay in our town, and we do want to encourage commercial business, too. We want to keep the businesses here because that's going to help us, right? We want to revitalize our downtown. We want it to be a welcoming community. I love the new restaurants that are going in. I think everybody should take advantage of that. I'd like to see some ribbon cuttings, maybe with the chamber. Mr. Town Manager, if you could look into that for us. I think it's nice that, like Dee said, going forward, we are the board. Let's be respectful of everybody. I do want to ask, Mr. Chairman, the Town Manager, if we can have an update to the chief to come in and let the residents know what's happening, with what happened to Ducky. We're all concerned about what happened to Ducky, and we want to have maybe the superintendent of schools come in, too. We talked about that, Dan, about having him come in and invite him
Yeah,
in.
we've got the airport next, and then
Yep, then we'll get him.
January we'll have the
Yep,
others.
we'll have the superintendent come in and update us on school safety for the kids. And there is a lot of events going on this Saturday, December 7th, in the square. Falcon Fest is going to be doing a lot of activities for the kids. So hopefully see everybody, and we'll ask the town manager, not the town manager, the town clerk, to update us on the business holiday party that will be coming up.
It's on Tuesday, the 10th of December, at Berry Tavern, from 5 to 7 for the downtown businesses.
Yep, so I think that's really good. And the
And
select
the
board-
kids are singing early?
The kids will sing early, yeah.
The a cappella group from the high school usually sings at 6 o'clock. However, they have somewhere else they have to be at 6 o'clock, so they will be singing at 5:30.
5:30.
They will be out the door at the high school by 6, so 5:30 sharp, I think, is what he said.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And then one last thing that I wanted to say is that I did have the chance, and every board member will have the chance to speak with Bernard Lynch. How funny is that? Bernard, my name, and Lynch was my maiden name. So I like the guy right from the get-go. But we had some really great conversation where he was asking myself what it is that we want to see for our town and for our new town manager. So I gave him a lot of pointers, and then I believe Dan was next, and then he wants everybody else. He's going to be contacting the other board members, and Dan will go through the process of, selection committee. But this is something we really want to take a deep dive into, and we want to make the right choice. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, and please come to our meetings.
Dan?
Thank you. Yes.
Before you speak, could I just comment on that state Supreme Court?
I'm going to let Mike speak first and then come back to you.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
Okay.
Mike?
Yes, a couple things. I meant to comment at a previous meeting that the Vietnam, Jesus, the veterans program that they had at the high school a few weeks ago, what an excellent job they did. I don't know how they could have made it any better. It was really, really awesome. So I don't have any names to thank everybody, but there was a lot of Danvers people there, obviously, and they did a great job. Tonight, we talked about communications. I think that is important. I think in the area that we live in, we have to do more, just because everybody's too busy. And a lot of people were at that meeting last night, and the board last night they were confronted with stuff that they couldn't control. So there was like no winning in the room when some of the topics. But it was good to hear a lot of people had a lot of information, things obviously I didn't know about. So it was good to see a lot of people there. And then to Mr. Chairman, I didn't know, I know Maureen just brought it up, but did you say in the meeting after the next that the chief would come in, and would he be accompanied by an ADA from Salem?
We made that request.
Okay, all right. That's it. Thank you.
David?
Thank you, Dan. I just wanted to comment upon the decorum at public meetings and what the citizen can say, which is protected by law. Dan mentioned a decision from the, first of all, I've been going to public meetings for more than 50 years, all kinds, and in Danvers, from time to time, historically, perhaps 6 times in 50 years, there was a personal attack upon somebody. And the genuine, the regular routine comment from the town moderators through the years has been, personal attacks are an affront to the town meeting and will not be tolerated. You are out of order. Bang. It happened maybe 5 or 6 times in 50 years. Stuff that has happened in this room over the last year scares me. And people know I've said over and over, I've been a lawyer 55 years and I don't practice anymore because it's too hard. Everybody fights. The state Supreme Court was confronted with a case perhaps a year ago or 6 months ago. It may have involved the town of Burlington, I forget. But there was a public hearing, and one or more citizens in the room made personal attacks upon one or more members of the sitting board, which I think was the select board, on some licensing matter or before it. And the chair of that meeting asked the person to not speak that way. And I believe when the citizen persisted, I don't know if it was 4-letter words, but it was a personal attack and outside the scope, actually, of what was being considered by the board. So the chair, as I remember the case, declared a recess and went outside, and I think they went to another room to continue the meeting. In any event, there was a court case, and I'm embarrassed to say that in this nation, in my lifetime, lawyers do awful, stupid things. I don't know why, probably for money. So the state Supreme Court had before it a case in which a citizen complained that her civil rights were violated by the chair who acted that way and cut off her free speech. And to some extent, the state Supreme Court wrote a decision and said, the citizen is right, the rights of the citizen were unlawfully curtailed, and I think, and I'll find out, and I'll have a brief summary at our next meeting. I think the Supreme Court sent the case back to the trial court and said, figure this out and figure out what you can do and what you can't do. Well, at that time, I was the chair of this board, and I don't scare easily, but I don't want someone filing a federal civil rights complaint against me for something with respect to the citizen's right to free speech. But there was no guidance. And I expected and hoped that our town lawyer, this very, very good lawyer, I think, from a very good law firm, would collaborate with other law firms and come out with a 20-minute video distributable to every chair of a public meeting in Massachusetts to explain the law and to say in black and white what you can and you can't do and what is permitted and what isn't permitted. That hasn't happened. So our chair tonight says that you heard whatever Dan said with respect to the ambiguity of what he can and can't do as a chair. I felt the same way. And so it is unsettled. And the state Supreme Court, I'll be there tomorrow morning. They do the best they can. But you know, they're a committee of 7 people too, and they rule by committee, and everybody has to agree on what they say. Yeah, it's not clear. There's going to have to be more clarification. And so I just will say I'll sympathize with Dan and the chair of whoever was chairing the meeting last night that got problematic as to what could or couldn't. In any event, I just want you to know that I'll try to do something to get some clarification. And Rodney, perhaps you and I might connect with your lawyer, the town's lawyer, and say, what the hell is your firm? And the other, there are 3 or 4 very good firms in Massachusetts who do all the municipal work for cities and towns. The cities and towns benefit greatly because there's no duplication. People like Rodney look over their bills very carefully. So they don't duplicate effort. And the things that they do are often collaborative. And something ought to be done by way of a teaching, reassuring, instructional piece so that chairs of the various, we have, I don't know, 467, 62 cities and towns in Massachusetts, and each of those towns and municipalities. And it wouldn't just be cities and towns. It would be other agencies. So there's a huge gap as far as what exactly can and can't be said at public meetings, and it ought to be clarified. Maybe our town council not putting all the cost on us, but sharing it around could produce something like that. Just an idea I have. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, David. So, a question, Rodney, and it was brought up to me during the recess. A lot of development in town was brought up early. How can we get information out to the community? The community, they're interested, they're concerned. And it's just, how can we don't have a local newspaper anymore, unfortunately. Town Hall puts together a nice newsletter every month, but who does that go to? It's just posted. So maybe some thoughts on that area.
Yep, that's really, Mr. Chair. I mean, we do try to utilize the town website, not to say that we couldn't do a better job of utilizing the town website, but I think that would be the primary spot in addition to whatever we have for local news. But we can surely work with planning and development on.
Right, and I know when somebody comes into the planning department with some idea what they might want to do, till they actually take out a permit, there's nothing to talk about.
Exactly. A lot of
That's
time
the
it is still,
problem,
we may not even be aware of it. It's just
Right.
kicking the tires on something, so we
Right,
wouldn't want
so
to
that's
alert.
it.
Yeah.
All right, and as Maureen said, she spoke with Bernie Lynch in a Zoom call yesterday morning. I spoke with him at noontime. This is the start of the process. The company is going to interview members of this board. So fellow board members, you need to reach out to Mr. Lynch and give him 45 minutes to answer his questions and tell him what it is you like about Danvers. Tell him what you think a manager should look like, so to speak, and give him your thoughts. And he's going to take those ideas and go to staff members and get their thoughts and develop a marketing piece to send out for interested parties to apply for the job. Once that process is underway, we will start to look at putting together the subcommittee that will interview the candidates. There's no candidate to interview until we get resumes, and he'll vet them and bring them to us. At that point, we'll put together he suggested 5 members. 7 is not out of the question.
Yeah.
Maureen and I are sub-chairing that committee, and we'll sit down sometime right after Christmas and talk about some folks to bring to this board for a vote up and down on those members. But until Mr. Lynch gets to do his interviews and gets to put together the marketing piece, we're on a hold. Okay? So please, fellow members, reach out to him. And I'm very...
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, on that point, given the fact that there might be residents that we have help out in the search committee, I think it might be wise to do it concurrently so that they can plan accordingly. If we reach out to someone and say we want you to help with this process a week before, they might not be able to make the proper arrangement.
We won't be
For me
doing
to-
any interviews till February. There's plenty of time for people to adjust their schedules.
So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, through you, if anybody's interested.
I'm not saying that. I'm not asking for
No,
people
but,
to
no.
reach out.
No, but they could reach out to you
They could.
and just say,
And
I'd
some
like to be
have.
considered.
Some have reached out to me, but
Okay.
I don't need 50 people reaching out to me to pick 5,
5 to 7, they said. he
5 to
said, yeah.
7.
Okay, so the process will be that the subcommittee will suggest people to this board to
Correct.
approve?
Yep.
Or does each board member suggest one person?
I'm not asking for that.
You'll interview them, too.
I'm not asking for each of you to submit your favorite friend. We've got a subcommittee of town meeting members looking at the Town Managers Act. We will have a subcommittee of people from Finance Committee, zoning, planning, those type of folks that are involved and committed.
To serve in the search committee?
Correct.
Okay, because my point, not the problem, I just want to clarify how those people how we choosing those people. And it's my understanding that the subcommittee will suggest to this board people that we think should serve on that search committee.
Correct. And if you disagree, you'll say so.
I was suggesting that each select board member, the three of us.
I'm not
that-
asking you to do that.
No, it's a proposition. I was just saying, would it be a possibility that one of each of the 3 select board members that are not on the subcommittee suggests or propose a name? That's still gonna
That's
come to
fine.
this.
Well, that's fine.
That's still gonna come to this committee for approval.
Yeah, if you
But
got
they will
somebody
be
you
in
want to
that
suggest,
part.
suggest them.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Where was I? We talked about the newsletter. Well, I guess we're if you see a vet, say thank you to the vet for this service. And there's any other business to come before this board? Hearing none, media adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you.
Danvers.